What's up guys, welcome back to another video. Pretty exciting day today. So, as usual you would have seen, the blue forged twin turboed 1J Hilux. We really wanted to tune, but Matt didn't want to pay for it. So we've actually managed to grind Matt down to the point where he's actually keen to tune that car, so it is coming out today. So Matt's coming out to pick up the R31. I'll pretty much take the R31, he's bringing the Hilux out, so we're going to tune the Hilux today, which is awesome. So finally get to do it. So this is our first go at Adaptronic, which I'm a big fan. I'm a massive fan of Andy's work, so I'm pretty keen to get into this Adaptronic and have a go at it. And yeah, it's going to be so sick to finally tune this Hilux. So just going to sort out the cold start on this buggy and get it out of here. And yeah, when this Hilux gets here, we'll chuck it on. Also, more exciting news. I actually bought yesterday, I had the day off, went and bought a few things. I bought a new battery for my Canon M50, now that it's actually my main camera to use since the GoPro sort of stopped working. And so far the footage has been really good. I originally used to have issues with this camera where the autofocus wouldn't work, but that was when I used to try and film in 4K. I've found since I've gone back to 1080, the autofocus seems to be a lot better and the footage is actually coming out really well. I'm actually really stoked with how the content's coming out lately. So I went and got another battery for the Canon, so now I've got two batteries to rotate. Also bought a new laptop. So I went and bought me and Rex went in it together, but this is now our dedicated tuning laptop, which is awesome. So you would have noticed that up until now, me and Rex mostly have been using my personal laptop, which is actually a gaming laptop. So gaming laptop, it's quite big and cumbersome for one. It's also like a bit of a beast, like that. It's a bit outdated now, but back when I bought that, it was like, as far as the laptop goes, it was pretty wild. It was like a GTX 1066 gig, 4-core i7, I think it's the 8th gen or 7th gen processor. So like it's a lot of power draw. The battery does not last. It only goes for like maybe get an hour out of the battery on it. The other thing is it's also collided up with all of my editing software, all of my videos and stuff. Like it's slow for what we want to do. It's not well suited and it's been a pain. So yesterday I went and bought a new laptop. And this is just going to be dedicated tuning only. It's a freaking beast. It's awesome. So it's still I'm pretty sure it's a 4-core i7. It's a 10th gen ECU. Freaking hell. CPU. So plenty of processing power. 16 gig of RAM and a 512 gig solid state. So and it's only a 14-inch laptop, so it's perfect. So I'll pull it out and show you the look.
It looks huge in the photo.
Yeah, I thought when I sent you the photo, I thought I should have put my hand in it to give you a reference.
Yeah, like it looks.
So I thought I'll let Rex unbox it because I already unboxed it yesterday.
Wow.
I already unboxed it yesterday to put all the software on it. So.
Oh wow.
It's half Rex's as well, so I thought I'll let him do the unboxing today.
Ah, that's perfect.
Yeah, it's pretty small there.
Yeah, smell.
And check it out.
Woo.
Oh, look at this. So one thing that I absolutely hate about my laptop when I'm tuning is the fact that the touchpad, like the mouse, it's one big touchpad and there's not actually any physical buttons. So it's like you have a left and right, but it's part of the touchpad. The problem with that is you hover the mouse over something and you go to click on the left part of the touchpad, and because you're hitting the touchpad, it moves where the mouse is. It's a pain. But this, it's right on the edge. You can use your thumb. It's got two physical buttons. I've also got this half pad up here, which is all touchscreen. And because it's a 14-inch, it doesn't have a numerical keypad, but you can bring up a touch numerical keypad up here. It's yeah, it's freaking awesome. So 16 gigabytes of DDR4 and 512 solid state, but not heaps of graphics card power, which it doesn't need for tuning. So heaps of battery life, which is pretty much the perfect little tuning rig. And it did say something on the little sticker on the top that it was like some sort of military grade freaking thing. What do we got here? What do we got here? All the specs. See, military grade.
Ultra durable quality.
Ultra durable quality. So I was like, hopefully it'll handle being in a workshop.
Yeah, and being solid state and stuff like that, she should be right.
Yeah, it's nice and light, freaking awesome. So the other cool thing that we have ordered, which is like a little tuner nerd thing, we've actually ordered a Plex V2 knock detection device. So as you've probably noticed, up until now we've been tuning with the old school, the knock box. So it's the proper actual, the knock box. So that's, you know, old school audio detection. Was really good for its day, and it's still better than nothing. But the problem with the knock box is there's no filtering, there's no frequency filtering or anything like that. And on valve trains with solid lifters and stuff, they create a lot of valve train noise, and it can be very hard to distinguish knock from valve train noise. So the V2 knock, or the V2 Plex is, you know, you can actually filter out frequencies, much like the, you know, the knock detection on like Link and Haltech and stuff, where they're a lot better at filtering out other noise and just getting the knock. So yeah, we'll be able to tune with that, particularly on like cars that don't have knock detection, even the ones that do, which will be awesome. So much better for actually getting the most performance that you can out of the car. But anyway, unfortunately for that, we've got like a 4-week wait, so that's not going to be here for a while. So that's a pain, but it has been ordered. So moves have been made. Got our dedicated laptop, and we ordered a new knock detection device. So the next thing on the cards for us is probably going to be a software for us to tune diesels. Given our geographical position, diesels is going to be a big money maker for us. So that's going to be the next thing we want to do. But the software, depending on which one we actually choose to go with, well, actually it doesn't really. All of them are super duper expensive, so it's a massive outlay. So we're just going to see how we go, you know, going over the next couple of months about what we can actually afford to get. But pretty keen to get onto that too. All right, so back to the Hilux. So as you all saw, we did the R150F conversion. So far, it's been pretty good. After we fixed some other things. So he took the car from here. I think you would have seen it in a video following the Hilux. I touched on it a little, but what actually happened is he took the car. And when he got it home, he called us and he was like, oh, it's making this terrible noise, like real bad noise. He was worried it was something wrong with the gearbox. We ended up going investigating. I did make content on all of this, but it ended up being not enough content to really make a viable video to put out, so I never did. But now that we're tuning it, I'll chuck that content in now. So I'll chuck in what happened here. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Bit of a somber start. The Hilux is back already. So 2 days ago, we finished off the R150F conversion. It went back to its owner. The owner took it back home and he sort of called us. He said, hey, it's making this weird bit of a knock under like light load sort of thing, like a bit of a drive line knock. So yesterday we went and got the car, took it for a bit of a drive, tried to investigate what the knock was. We brought it back here. We sort of figured it sounded something like something in the tail shaft or the diff. We pulled the diff off. Oh, sorry, not the diff. We pulled the tail shaft off the diff. We found that the pinion was very, very loose, so we just sort of tightened that up as best we could. We then just sort of chucked it on the rollers on the dyno, and just same thing, just tried to simulate that sort of light load, trying to figure out what was happening. We eventually came to the conclusion that it was a diff, so we dumped the diff oil, and sure enough, it was chunky. So what we've got in here, we actually saved some of those, so you can see there. I can't see the screen if that's. But anyway, that's chunks of diff. So that's probably pinion gear or ring gear or something. It's either way, it's not very nice. So the diff in this thing is obviously pretty much a goner. So at this point now, we're at the task of changing out the diff center. So the owner actually has another Hilux over at his place, one that he was sort of always using as a donor for this car. Again, it's just nice to have parts. So it's got another diff center in it. So we're gonna pull this center out, go over to his place, pull that center out, bring it back here, chuck it in this diff to try and sort this Hilux out. So heaps of fun, more stuff to go right. So it's it probably, our idea is it's probably been sad for a little while. The deal was obviously that this came here because he blew up a G52. So he popped another gearbox before it came here. That's why I converted it to the R150F. So obviously maybe when he did the gearbox, the diff went at the same time, or maybe the diff had something to do with it. We don't know. Either way, it's not obviously nothing to do with the R150. It's just the fact that coincidentally the diff is also quite sad. So again, that's what happened when you're pushing sort of pretty big power in these things. Like this thing is pushing quite a big power for the car, but it's just a part of making power. But anyway, we'll try and get this thing sorted for him today. Get a new diff center in there, and hopefully have it sort of driving and ready to go for him again. Alright, bit dark in there, but we got the old diff out. And as you can see, she's yeah, she's a bit sad. Not the greatest. But I guess you get that. So Rex is just picking out chunks.
Yeah, we'll
adding it to our collection.
We'll have to clean that housing out like really, really well.
Look at that. That is some chunkiness.
Bit how you going?
It's a bit average. Oh, I can't wait to do all this in the dirt to get the other center out of the other car.
Nice. The size of that compared to my thumb.
That is a big ass redback.
Big red back ass.
Righto, so I went and rolled around in the dirt and got the other center out of the other diff. It does look a lot better. It actually looks pretty good, so hopefully this is going to solve all our problems. Righto, so we've got our good center in the diff. So Rex chucked that in. That should be all sealed up, pretty much ready to go. We've been through these like the actual brakes and serviced everything, cleaned everything up, and just made sure everything was all good with the brakes. You know, as best we could without actually buying new pads and stuff like that. So at this point, it's pretty much now just get our seals, smack the axles back in and bleed out the brakes, and it's good to go. So as you can see, he took it, made this noise. We went and investigated. We found out there was a diff. It had completely shut the diff. So swapped the new center in, got him going again. We also put a race seat in it, which he ended up hating. But yeah, that's pretty much where the Hilux got to. So now it's coming to get tuned. That's awesome. Alrighty, so first things though, before we even get the Hilux on the dyno, you would have seen in the R31 video, we tuned that, well we didn't tune, we just ran up the VZ that Dan bought out just to sort of give it a health check and see what was happening. And we commented on it and you saw it, it was actually running really lean. We thought it was really, really lean. Then we were tuning this buggy, which I think by now that video should be out. And same thing, we found that it was actually running quite lean, a lot leaner than the O2 onboard in the Haltech was actually reading. We were going off the dyno, again we only use that AFR as a bit of a guide. We sort of played around with the fuel and gave the motor where it was, whatever fuel it was happy with. So it's not that big of a deal. But what we're starting to see is a bit of a pattern where things keep being lean. We've recalibrated our sensor on the dyno a heap of times, but it's still the same. But we are using a Haltech LSU49 in the dyno at the moment, which we normally use the actual Dyno Dynamics ones. So we're starting to think maybe our dyno is actually reading a little bit out, or not where it's supposed to be, just considering the pattern that we've had of cars looking like they're being quite lean as far as the dyno is reading. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to fire up the big Falcon Wags and bring it up. It's the best thing we've got as a reference. So you would have remembered back when we first got the dyno, we were really excited about it. I was running up everything just to see how much power it all made. So we've got some reference runs of the Falcon from back then, which will be really good for us to go off. And that was using an older sensor that we ended up cooking with Zach's car. So that's using the Dyno Dynamics sensor. So we've got a good baseline to double check it against now. So the Falcon obviously being completely stock, aspirated Barra, unchanged. It should be a really good indication as to whether the dyno at the moment is reading leaner than it was back then. And it's the best thing we've got to double check. So we're going to reference that before the Hilux gets here, so we can double check, make sure we're tuning with the correct tools and everything reading right. And hopefully that is how it is. But like I said, we don't just tune off the data. We use the data to help us. We give engines what they want and leave them where they're happiest. So we'll just see how it goes. So that's the old Falcon. So we've got this AFR run to sort of go off and make sure that our dyno's not all of a sudden reading like 1 point higher, which is what the difference between that and this thing was. So always good to double check these things. Right, big Falcons on the dyno. We're actually reading a little bit richer than last time, but I do have the bonnet shut. I don't have the pod filter sticking out of the bonnet like I did last time, but at least it's a confirmation to us that the dyno's not lean. Which is good. It means that there actually is a discrepancy in the buggy between the AFRs and the Haltech and the dyno, which is what we actually thought. But just after a few things, having a pattern of things being lean, you start to wonder about the calibration of your equipment. So always good to just do a sanity check, now we know. But Rex is just going to do another free air calibration on the sensor, and we'll do one more run up on the Falcon, but I'm pretty confident to say everything's going to be Mickey Mouse and sweet. So now we just wait for the Hilux to get here and get in on here and have a tune. Check this beastie. Oh, that touch with just the thumb in the car, like, woo, that is so sick. And then you got this big touch screen here. You can bring up like a numerical keypad. Boom. Got touch numerical keys. You can bring up like quick keys. That's just like your copy paste and all that sort of stuff, which is sick. And if you like open up like a software, get rid of that. You can actually put it down here and have like touchscreen in the software, which is skits. So it means you can like have your touchscreen and your screen going at the same time, which is just so sick. It's so awesome. Anyway, You can like chuck that back up there. Pow pow. Anyway, it wasn't cheap, but as Rex sort of pointed out yesterday when we were talking about it, apart from the dyno, it's our most useful and used tuning tool. So there's no reason to cheap out on it. We may as well get something that's, you know, powerful, decent, good battery, gonna allow us to do our job really well. So super stoked with it. Super stoked. Righto, so we did another car. We ran the Falcon up again and everything was all sweet. So dyno's all good, which is, yeah, really nice little sanity check for us. So anyway, here we have the Hilux back. And we're pretty much ready to get it on the rollers and get it cracking. So pretty excited to see what we're gonna do today with this thing. I'm estimating around 380. Should be good for 400, as we've talked about. All the motors there. It's got plenty of motor, enough to do 400, no worries. We're still unsure about what the actual specs on the turbos are, but yeah, you know, you got an R150F and then a transfer case and then, you know, Hilux diff and stuff. So I reckon about 380 is about a good point. I'd be pretty happy with 380 out of it. All right, we'll shut it down so all you Zach Baldy fans can stop panicking. Stop having your fit of panic. So anyway, here we go. The mighty, fully forged twin turbo 1J. See what we can squeeze out of it. Matt reckons about the same as I reckon, about 380.
Yeah, about 380.
Yep. So did your skyline? Did it look exactly how you thought it would? The skyline?
I like it.
Yeah,
That's good.
Yeah, good granny was it. All right. So we'll set this up. We've got to reset the dyno with all Matt's information, and we'll just run her up, see what it's doing, and then we might give it one power on if it's safe enough, and just start off with our baseline. Righto, so we've already got issues. So the thermo fan on this thing's coming loose on the shroud. It's already lost one of the bolts down there and this one's loose. So they bolt and nutted to the actual shroud. So we've got to pull the shroud out to get the fan done up properly again. So I undid the two top bolts on the shroud here, which is all well and good, except the shroud, the way it's designed is you got two little keepers down there, hopefully you can see, which sort of hold the shroud into the radiator. And then on the bottom of the shroud, it's actually got two straight out, which sort of hook it into the bottom of the radiator. So you can't slide it up. So the only way to get the shroud out is to unscrew these and slide it down. And this, when we did the cab swap, this thing was a real pain. It was real hard to get in. And so now the only way we're going to get the shroud out is to pull the rad back out. Righto guys, so crisis somewhat averted. I managed to just sneak down a 10mm spanner in the gap on the shroud and actually get the bolt done up without having, so we don't have to pull the radiator at this point. You know, today's Friday, we really want to get this thing tuned today. As these guys know, we don't tune on the weekends because we don't want to anger the neighbours too much. So that's sort of something we can do tomorrow on Saturday where we're not dynoing. At the moment, we don't want to eat into too much dyno time. So yeah, just having a play around on the Adaptronics software. Really nice. Nice, aesthetically pleasing software. Pretty easy to navigate. Lots of fun. Alrighty, so we've confirmed with the guy who built the engine, and yeah, as we thought, it's all forged, bomb-proof. Bottom end, he reckons, good for 800. And yeah, as far as we can tell, we're still unsure in the exact turbo specs, but with two of them, there should be plenty of turbo there. So it's just going to be a matter of how much boost we can sort of cram into this thing on pump fuel before we start reaching the sort of limits and knock and things like that. So Rex is still convinced 400. So, you know, we're looking at sort of mid to high 20 PSIs of boost. So Matt was saying when they dynoed it last time as well, when they ran out of fuel pump, it was getting real hot. So we just have to keep an eye on that temperature. It sucks when things get hot on the dyno because it eats into the time so much, having to keep waiting for them to cool down between runs. But anyway, we'll just see how it goes, keep a close eye on it. The other thing is it's just an aeroflow intercooler, I'm pretty sure, which, as we know, that they're not the best, especially for these really high sort of boost pressures. So just a matter of keeping an eye on those intake air temps, keeping an eye on our knock, and yeah, hopefully we can just jam heaps of boost in it. Righto guys, so we ran it up, we've got our baseline, and it was a little bit lean, so we just riched it up, got our fuel map pretty sorted for the booster that it's had at the moment. So what would we run up? About 276 is how it is at the moment. 276 on, yeah, about 12 pounds, so I'd say it's just on gate pressure at the moment. Apparently, when they tuned it last time, they tuned it up to 17 before they ran out of fuel pump, so it should be, in theory, mapped up to 17 PSI. But yeah, it was a little bit lean, so put a bit more fuel in it, and pretty happy with where it is at the moment as far as fuel goes. So now we're just looking to try and get some boost into it. So it does have a MAC valve. It's all plumbed in to the actual wastegate, and the wiring's there for it. It was just never actually plugged in, so I'd say they probably just tuned at 17 pound. Ran out of fuel pump, unplugged the MAC valve and just ran it on gate pressure just to be safe. So we've just plugged it back in, so now we'll play around with trying to get a bit more boost into the thing, and yeah, try and pump some more boost in, and then we'll look at doing some timing. Righto, so we plugged in the MAC valve. It's not actually doing anything because it's not assigned to any outputs on the ECU. So when they actually tuned it the first time, they just had a boost key in it. The MAC valve wasn't actually wired in. So whoever built the loom has actually, built the loom, emptively for a MAC valve. So the wiring is there. It does go to the ECU. Just that we actually have to pull the glove box and get the ECU out to see where it's actually pinned to, so that we can set the output in the software for the MAC valve. So once we get that sorted, then we should be able to put some boost into it. All right, so we're pretty sure we got it sorted. We've tracked down the wiring, found the pin. We've set the pin out to wastegate duty cycle 1. So hopefully now we can play around with the duty cycle table and get some boost into it through the MAC valve. Should be ideal. Turn it up. Righto guys, so we've had a bit of fun. It went pretty well. The new computer is awesome, and actually playing with Adaptronic, I do quite like the Adaptronic software, and the layout's really good. There's a few things in it that I don't like, same as pretty much every software. None of them are perfect. All of them have things I like and things I don't like. So with the Adaptronic, you can only really either input values or change values by a percentage. You can't actually just add or subtract. Which has been a bit of a pain, because for a lot of things like timing, we like to sort of keep whole numbers and just add and subtract a few things, where you can't actually do that with Adaptronic. You have to either just input the value or add, subtract percentage. But anyway, not to worry, little niggly things. We ended up running out of boost, pretty much. We ended up at just about 21 PSI. And it wouldn't go anymore. We tried up in the duty cycle as much as we could. We ran it at just 100%, and it just would not make any more boost. So 21 PSI, we ended up at 347 at the wheels, which is certainly not that bad. When you consider like really big gearbox and the diff and everything else that's going on, that's not too bad power. So there's a few things we found with this car. The knock detection, like the knock sensors haven't been wired in at all, so there is no knock detection. Like the knock sensors are still on the block, everything's there, just no loom, no one's bothered to wire them in. So it's got no knock detection for one. Secondly, we found that it's actually, for some reason, someone's wired up for wasted spark and not full sequential ignition setup, which is a bit weird. I tried to do some research on these coil packs just to try and get some dwell, because I've never seen them before, so I didn't have any idea of what to put in for our dwell table sort of thing. So I did some research. I found that these coil packs, they're called the Goss coil pack. You can just buy them at super cheap. From what I can tell, they seem to be pretty much like a copy or a replacement coil pack for a Yaris coil pack. So anyway, being wasted spark, we couldn't pump heaps of dwell time in them, and we did find a few times when we got some weird boost spikes before we put some timing back into it. So obviously with the fairly retarded timing, we were getting some boost spikes, so we're finding that it was just blowing out spark. And yeah, being wasted spark, we can't really get much more dwell time into them because you risk the coils getting way too hot. So yeah, a few issues that we hadn't foreseen. But it's okay because at 20 PSI, where we ended up being limited anyway, it's got plenty of spark. So anyway, that was only short of, like, we didn't actually pull the plugs out. We didn't check the plugs. The next thing we were going to do if it was going to keep happening is pull the plugs out, check what they are, gap them properly and go from there. But it didn't actually come to that before we ran out of boost anyway. So that's essentially the Hilux tune. That's what it is. So guys, that's pretty much where this is going to be left for now. We actually have found out that the Adaptronic M2000 actually has an EMAP, like a separate second EMAP sensor, which means we can actually log exhaust gas pressure, like exhaust back pressure on the Adaptronic. If I can get my words out, which is going to be very useful for this sort of situation. So we've spoken again to the engine builder. We sort of told him where we're at, what's going on. And yeah, so we're pretty sure we are pretty much, you know, approaching that limit of our turbo, particularly on this car. So we reckon we're getting just too much exhaust back pressure. We've had a look, they are 2560s, and we've had a look on the Garrett website. They only have one turbine housing option, and that is a 0.63 or 64 AR. So they only have the option for a very small housing on these 2560s. So same thing we did find today is, like, you know, we couldn't get as much timing in it as we've got in other 1Js with good single setups, which is usually, you know, a straight up an indication of the fact that you have too much exhaust back pressure. So before we even log it, we already know that that's probably what we're looking at, but we do have the option to drill and tap one of the manifolds and put a pressure sensor in so that we can actually log exhaust gas pressure and double check it. But it appears that that's pretty much where we're at, and the only other option pretty much for this twin setup is to go up to a pair of 2860s, which, you know, that's two of them is far too big for this 2.5 litre engine. It's not going to do. So where we're at the moment is pretty much that there's not a lot of issues that are going to be massively beneficial. Like 347 wheel horsepower in this thing, as you can imagine, is pretty staunch, and it's a pretty good power curve for the weight of the car and for the purpose of the vehicle. So aside of changing the setup and going to a single, we don't really have a lot of options. We are going to sort of probably try and tap the manifold and get that EMAP set up so that we can log it just to double check. But at the end of the day, that's pretty much where we're at. Even if we got some wastegate actuators that were 2 ports so that we could plumb the 3-port Mac valve properly to do its job and keep the gate shut. If it is a back pressure issue, we might be able to make some more boost, but we're not going to be able to get any more timing in it. It's not going to flow anymore. We're not going to make any more power, really, even if we can get it to do that. So you're really starting to push it uphill, and Rob and Peter to pay Paul to do it. So it pretty much just is what it is at this point. We will double check anyway, but that's just my what I'm thinking is my prediction is that I'd say that this is, with this turbo setup, this is going to pretty much be the limit of what we've got here. So 340 horsepower, it's pretty cool. It's pretty staunch for what it is. So yeah, we'll get one of these manifolds off, either the front or the back one, and just drill and tap a 1/8 MBT to put a reference in for pressure for the EMAP, and we'll do some logs and see what we're looking at. But could pretty much 100% predict that is going to be the problem, and yeah, we'll see what we can go from there. But me personally, I reckon it's probably worth just leaving it as is at 340. It's a good power curve for what it is, but it just depends on what Matt wants to do, whether he wants to try changing a few things up and seeing what we can do with it, or going to a single, or what he wants to do. He really wants that 400. Really, it would be nice to get that 400, but at the end of the day, if we can't get it with these turbos, we can't get it. That's just what happens with cars. So anyway, that'll all be for another video. That'll be it for this one. Cheers for watching. Glad we finally did get to tune it. And yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one, guys. Peace out. See you, bye.